guys, my name's Helene Foy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited because I am going to be sending out IDimF to beta readers. Now I will say before I get into this video that I have technically sent IDimF out to beta readers before. I'm still in the round 1 stage of beta readers. So I am going to kind of do a little bit more explaining about what round 1 means to me later on. But suffice it to say, I have already sent it out to my dad because my dad is a huge lover of epic fantasies and things like that. And I've also sent it out to one of my very close friends who also enjoys writing. She's not gotten to do a lot of writing lately, but she's a huge writer and reader. And I have been sending it out to her kind of in chunks over the past few months, you know, really just letting her take her time with it because her life is crazy. So it's at the point basically where I'm just, you know, letting her give her feedback on her own time whenever she's able to, that kind of thing. And then also my little sister, I guess you could technically call her an alpha reader. One of the things that actually motivated me to get through the first draft of IDimF was I would actually send whatever chunk I had written that day to my sister so she could read it in study hall when she was at school. And then she would, because usually she wouldn't have like homework to do in study hall, so she would just read my story instead and we would chat on Google Docs a little bit. And that was really fun. And so she was definitely the alpha reader for this story. And it was nice to get her feedback as I was writing the early drafts and things like that. But beyond that, I have not sent it out to any other beta readers. I am still on round 1 of beta readers, as I mentioned before, and basically what that means for me, round 1 includes family members and close friends who I trust. My idea, this is my first time ever utilizing beta readers, so I'm kind of feeling it out, testing the waters, learning as I go, but my idea for this is I'm going to start out with people who are really close to me, you know, who know me and who I know will be gentle with me because I'm a perfectionist and I'm really scared to like show people my work, so I want to kind of build up to scary people who are strangers to me that I don't really know that well to like asking them. So I'm starting with round 1 with people who know me, and I know for sure that any criticism they give me is going to be out of a place of love and out of a place of just being constructive. So after I get feedback from round 1 of beta readers, just initial feedback and anything really major that stood out to them, of course I'm gonna go back and edit my draft depending on what they said, or, you know, if they didn't catch anything major, then I'll just move right on to round 2 of beta readers, which are going to be a larger number of my writer friends that I have made in this wonderful AuthorTube and WriterGram community. And then round 3, after I edit my draft if needed from their feedback, round 3 of beta readers is going to be to basically complete strangers. I might send out like a little announcement on my Instagram, so stay tuned for that. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I might, you know, do like a little post on Instagram saying that I'm seeking for beta readers or things like that. So by the time, the idea is that by the time my story gets to round 3 of beta readers, it will be as polished as possible, you know what I mean? By the time it goes out to those people who might be complete strangers. But yeah, anyway, so the 2 people that I am sending this out to today, I would consider to be in round 1 of beta readers because they are 2 very close writer friends of mine. But the difference with these 2 is that as I'm sending out this draft to them, I'm also going to be sending them out actual beta reader questions, because for the other 3, I kind of just like, hey, let me know what you think. Anything stood out to you, good or bad, just let me know. Kind of very chill, relaxed, things like that. But this time around, I'm actually sending out little beta reader questionnaires, so I'm going to kind of show you guys that as well. I obviously am writing on Google Docs, and I just think this is going to be the easiest way for me to share it is through Google Docs. So what I'm going to do is I am sending the whole draft at once, but I do also have 4 different documents for part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4 of it, in case it's easier for some people or in case I want to send it out to certain people in chunks rather than all at once. I'm sending it out all at once to these 2 particular beta readers right now. So I'm just going to kind of show you guys my process of doing that. All right, so I'm covering up the names of the email addresses right now, but I just want you guys to see that I did make them commenters. Since these are pretty close writer friends of mine, I, don't mind if they make comments. Now, later on, when I get to round 2 or 3 of beta readers, I may just make them readers, not necessarily commenters or editors. And then I also wrote a little note, and now this is a much more casual message right now because I do know that these people I'm sending it out to are going to be good about getting this information and these beta reader questions back to me in a prompt time span. I know they're not going to hold on to it. However, when I do send it out to round 2 and 3 of beta readers, I'm going to have a much more in-depth message and kind of email to them explaining what exactly I'm looking for. And, probably we'll have a time limit for those just so that I'm getting it back. But since this is round 1 and these are close writer friends of mine, as I mentioned, I know there's not so much of that need for me to kind of really go in depth and explain. So I'm not going to do that too much. But anyway, you can see here I attached IDimF draft 4, technically it's draft 5 as I mentioned before, and I'm going to send it, and then I'm going to go ahead and send another document with all the beta reader questions I had already filled out, and I'll show you guys that. Alright, so you can see here I have IDimF beta questions, and right off the bat, wait, let me see if I can pull out the outline. Yes, right off the bat, see that I separated this into 4 parts because, as I mentioned earlier, there may come a time when either it's easier for a certain beta reader or I want a certain beta reader to read the novel by parts rather than as a whole. That way maybe the reader can go more in depth with the certain things. Wow, it's really hard for me to enunciate today. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I went ahead and did separate out these questions into 4 parts to make it easier. That way I can just copy paste each individual part as that person needs it. So I am going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what I included in these beta reader questions, why I did it, and all that fun stuff. So part 1, I also made sure I was specific about what part 1 means. So part 1 is chapter 1 to interlude 1. And I began by doing questions by chapter. So questions for each individual chapter, and this is optional for the most part now if I am handing out IDimF to people by parts, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, I will probably have questions by chapter. I'll probably want them to answer all these questions, but if I'm handing IDimF out to people as a whole, it might be kind of overwhelming to have them do it by chapter, so I made these optional. If there's any specific one of these questions that they really want to answer, or they think they need to answer, or they just want to go more in depth, I'm kind of leaving that up to them. So, chapter 1 questions, what did you think of Gaston? Now, I try to keep these questions very vague because there are certain things I want to know about my characters, basically oh, are they likable? Are they unlikable? Things like that. But I don't want to kind of change readers' minds unconsciously the way I ask a certain question, oh, did you think Gaston was too overbearing, for example, and then make them be oh, maybe they didn't think he was overbearing at first, but then when they hear me ask that question, maybe they're oh, yeah, come to think of it, I did, you know what I mean? Not saying my beta readers are gonna lie or anything like that, but it just, how you phrase a question can be very important, and it can really affect what your answer is gonna be. So I try to make all my questions pretty vague for that reason, basically as prompts to kind of prompt their general thoughts on it. If anything about Gaston stands out to them, if they really hate him, I think this question is going to prompt them to answer like that. And I did kind of give a little bit more description, like, dislike, could you follow his thought process, predictions, things like that. So, yada yada. And then at the end of the by-chapter questions, I have questions for part 1, and these are not optional, these are questions I do want answered for any of my beta readers. So questions for part 1 include chapter 1 to interlude 1. What was your favorite chapter/scene, least favorite, and why? I'm really excited about seeing the answers for this question, or technically 3 questions, but we're ignoring that, because I think that when people are talking about what their favorite chapter and scene are going to be, that's really going to inform me about what qualities they like about the book, you know what I mean? Or in general, like if they really like the setting, that's going to really inform me about their answers later on and all that fun stuff. Least favorite is going to help me point out maybe some issues I need to fix. Is there anything about the world/magic system that is confusing or needs to be better explained? This one is not as vague of a question, but it is something that I am really concerned about. So I wanted to make sure people answered this question because the magic system was the last thing I wrote into this story, and I want to make sure it stands out because it is an epic fantasy and it really does rely on the magic system. Thoughts on the story's pacing? At what point did you think, now this is getting exciting, because I want to make sure the readers are hooked early on? Thoughts on the plot in general? Predictions, this is very vague, so this could go any number of ways. And additional notes. I always want to make sure I have room for additional notes in case there's something else I didn't think to ask and they want to talk about it. And then part 2, again, I was specific, chapter 6 to interlude 2. And then I have more questions by chapter, which of course are optional. And then at the end, I have questions for part 2 overall, chapter 6 to interlude 2. Basically the same or very similar questions. What was your favorite chapter/scene, etc.? Is the story still intriguing? Were there any parts that were difficult to get through? What do you think of the characters? Have your opinions changed about any of them? Do you feel you can connect with them? Thoughts on their motivations? Thoughts on the world, magic system, is anything confusing? And additional notes. Part 3, again, chapter 11 to interlude 3, all these optional questions by chapter. Questions for part 3 overall. What's your favorite chapter/scene? Least favorite, why? What do you think of the characters and their relationships? Have your opinions changed about them? Do you feel you can connect with them? Predictions? Thoughts on the world, magic system, is anything confusing or need to be explained better? Additional notes. And part 4, all more questions by chapter that are optional. Questions for part 4 overall. What was your favorite blah blah blah? Thoughts on the world/magic systems. Did you feel they're explained enough by this point? Because I really hope they're explained enough by the end of the story. Was there a moment you felt was difficult to get through? Final thoughts on characters and their relationships, and additional notes. And then after I have all those, I also have a section for questions for the book overall. Which character did you connect with the easiest? Why? Which character was hardest to connect with? Why? What were the points where you found yourself skimming? This was interesting because I didn't ask, did you find yourself skimming at points? I asked, what were the points where you found yourself skimming? Because I feel like there are points like that for any story. So I think this is going to be very revealing about things that maybe I could look at cutting or not, What did you think of the world building? Would the story benefit from more, less? Which setting stood out the clearest to you? What was the most suspenseful moment? Where did you stop reading the first time you cracked open the manuscript? This could kind of help me pinpoint, I guess, where the hook happens or, all that fun stuff. Was there a point where the story didn't feel totally cohesive or was difficult to follow? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? I'm really happy with these 2 questions. I'm really excited to see what people say. Because these could be positive or negative. What would you like to see more of? It could be something positive like, more of the characters interacting because I really like how they interact. Or it could be, not really negative, but like something I could work on. Like, I need to see more world building or more info about this. It's same thing with what would you like to see less of. I think this really opens up a lot of doors for, interesting answers. In your opinion, did the story tie up necessary loose ends, keeping in mind this is for a series? That end of that question is kind of like, I guess, it could be leading people on, but, in the sense that, I don't know, like, I might delete the end of this later, I'm not sure, because I basically just want to know, did the story tie up necessary loose ends? And I don't know if I want to handicap that question with keeping in mind this is for a series, because I feel like with any book, even though it's the first one in the series, I want it to feel like a whole complete book, and ends were tied up, you know what I mean? I don't want it to feel loose, like, there's some things that needed to be tied up, but it's fine, it's probably for a series, I want it to stand on its own as well. and then of course, additional notes. So I did send out the email with the beta reader questions, and I forgot to video that, but I do want to stress the point that when I email, I try to make sure I tell my beta readers to copy the questions onto a separate document and then answer it in that document, so that way they're not answering it all like on the one document. I didn't make my beta readers editors or commenters, I just made them viewers for the beta reader questions themselves. That way, hopefully, no one will try to be writing in the actual document, and they can just go to File, make a copy, and then write in their own copy of the document and then send that document to me when they're done. And yeah, so that's going to be the end of my video for today. I will definitely update you guys once I get beta reader feedback. I'll probably do a little vlog about unpacking beta reader feedback and kind of my plans of attack for how I'm going to edit my draft based off that feedback. And then of course, subsequent rounds of beta readers every time I send this book out to more beta readers and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let me know what you guys all thought of this video. Let me know if you have ever sent out a project to beta readers. What was your experience? Do you have any suggestions for me or tips? Because this is all new to me. Please let me know. I am always open to hearing suggestions and tips because, yeah. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be alerted every time I post a new video or live stream. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!